Hello, my astrology family. This is Lada from AstroladaOfficial. This is the most important and exciting month of the year, not just personally, but for the world, because the two planets, the two probably most intense planets, Saturn and Pluto, are changing signs in March. So there will be big world important events that you'll notice around March, maybe a little bit before, a little bit after. But on a personal level, this will be a game changer, many new beginnings in your life. Old problems will disappear and a new exciting territories and problems will appear. Let's see what it's going to be like. I'll speak about each of the 12 signs. You'll come back to this video for many years, at least for the next 3 years, because I'll speak about how Saturn will influence you for the next 3 years and Pluto for the next 20 years. So please save this video to favorites because you will need it. When things start happening, this will explain to you and give you perspective, so you don't feel overwhelmed, or so you feel like, wow, I'm on time, like a deja vu. This is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. So this is an important video. And before I start, please do start with your ascendant. If you know your time of birth, start with your rising sign, also known as ascendant. If you don't know it, start with your sun sign and moon sign if you can, but the ascendant is the most important, I think, if your time of birth is correct. And then I'll follow if you're day born, the sun. Check the 3 if you want, but always for me the ascendant is it. And by the way, before we start, just to let you know, I'm doing a big webinar on Pluto in Aquarius. That will be at the end of February, the start of March. It's only $39. It will be 5 hours, and I'll walk you through how Pluto will affect you personally, because Pluto will be in Aquarius for the next 20 years, and I'll show you how, and you'll be able to see what areas Pluto will influence. Say Pluto will square your Mars, natal Mars, in 2036. What does it mean? Or Pluto will enter your second house and it will transit the second house cusp in 2025. What does it mean for you? Or Pluto will trine your Venus. What does it mean for your life, for your love life, and which year? So that will be a very personal webinar, but because I'll show you how you can calculate it and see it very easy, but at the same time very insightful for you to plan, because Pluto is the planet of the evolution of the soul. And if the most important changes on a spiritual and material level always happen through Pluto. So let's enjoy the videos. Pisces, March 2023. For everyone who is Sun, Moon, or Ascendant in Pisces, and I'm Lada from AstroladaOfficial. Pisces, this is the most important month in the whole year, and for many Pisces, this will be a pivotal turning point in their life, for not just for the year ahead, but for many years ahead, because pivotal astrological events are happening. The most important event is that from the 7th of September, Saturn is entering your sign. The last time Saturn was in your sign was 29 years ago. So this is pivotal. Saturn is the planet of karma, is the planet of order, structure, seniority. So over the next 2.5 years, Saturn will stay in your sign. And especially if your ascendant is in Pisces, but also Sun and Moon to some extent, you would notice gradually that it's not going to be immediate, but you might see some kind of a symbolic event that happens in March already, like a shift in mood, like a shift in circumstances around you, which will be kind of telling about the next 2-3 years, about the big changes that will be happening in your life. And they're very structural changes, because Saturn rules structures, and the first house, which is your sign, of course, the first house is your identity. So your identity will change so much. I just came out of a 2.5 years Saturn in my sign, and the pivotal event that happened when Saturn entered, around the month Saturn entered my first house, was the lockdowns, and that totally redefined my role in society and my self-definition. This will happen to all of you. Something will change, maybe not immediately in March, but within the next 1 year you will feel it, but it starts in March. That will make you reconsider your social role and your self-identified roles in society. You know, and you might have to slow down and reconsider how exactly do you want to play these roles, and if some roles are still relevant and have to be removed, like the role, like my image that I always had of the party girl and the maiden when Saturn entered my first house was I'm no longer the maiden, I'm the mom. Even at moments I felt like the crone because Saturn is the planet of aging and maturity. So you will redefine your role in society and how you identify yourself as during this period, in a more mature, in a more responsible, in a more streamlined fashion. A lot of previous roles that are no longer necessary will fall apart. I'm sorry to say I had to say goodbye to my party girl persona, but it had to happen. And all the other roles that you will keep and will be existing, that you identify with, that society sees you with, will be redefined in some way, will be restructured. Like my role as an astrologer, for example, unwittingly and maybe not very willfully, but when this happened, when Saturn started transiting my first house, I took on a role of seniority, more seniority, and a role of some kind of a rebellion almost, a role of awakening, new roles will be born for you. That's another thing. They would not be immediate. One day you wake up and I'm like, oh, I'm a banker till now, but I'm a beauty therapist now, or oh, I'm suddenly I've been obese, but suddenly I'm an athlete. It takes 2-3 years to slowly, with repeated attempts to enter this role. Again, remember, it's not going to be immediate. Saturn is very slow, but something will start changing where you'll be required to have a new role in life, new role, new identities to be born. I never thought I would take that path, almost kind of a political or whatever, awakener, rebel against the system. That's my new identity that I realized that now that Saturn is leaving my first house, that I've adopted. For you, it might be something totally different, of course. But it might have to do a lot because Saturn for Pisces rules your 11th house. Here it is. If this is Pisces, the 11th house from Pisces is Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn. And when Saturn enters here, your self-identity will be redefined by possibly by participation in some group activities, in some societies, online or in person. Will be redefined by belonging or redefining your belonging to certain groups of people, to certain social groups, or to certain political or certain economical social groups. This will be changed, this will be redefined for you slowly and gradually. Powerful new beginnings happen when Saturn transits your sign for the next 2.5-3 years. And they're not just on the material level. Actually, I speak a lot about this on the material manifestations that happen when Saturn is in the first house in my 2023 video for Pisces, which is just $21, and it's 3 hours long, 2.5 hours. If you want more the nitty-gritty, more specific details, more the material manifestations of what is happening, check out this my piece of love, my work of love that I've created. I'm putting a link below for my yearly horoscopes. But on the more spiritual level, what happens is that the first house, the ascendant, rules the etheric body. And that's the body through which we receive. It's not the physical body. The etheric body structures the physical body. The etheric body is like the matrix, like the vibrational. It's invisible to us, but it looks exactly like the physical body, and is the matrix according to which the body and the substances of the material world are attracted and build our body. So the etheric body is charged through the solar energy. The etheric body is where we receive the prana, the life force. And Saturn has a bit of a restricting energy. So one thing you might notice for the next 2.5-3 years is that you are you're not gonna say, oh, I have less prana. Most people would just feel like, I don't have as much energy. It's like I'm not as vivacious, or I feel more slowed down, or I feel like I feel my body heavier almost as well, you know, like slower. Uh, Not necessarily that you're bigger or something like that, more like this kind of Atlas syndrome carrying the world on his shoulders. And it's mostly because the prana access, the pranic energy into etheric body is slowed down, because your etheric body, Saturn is restructuring it, reorganizing it, and it will have impact on your life and on your health and on your identity and who you are for the next 30 years. The work that is being done on the invisible levels, in your soul level, on the etheric level, for the next 3 years will impact you for the next 30 years. How your health will be, how your body structure will be, how your personality will be. We rarely have a chance to change our personality, you know, but this is one of the rare periods of about 3 years for you Pisces that you'll be able to structurally, slowly, very slowly. It's not going to be, as I said, you wake up and you're a different person. Very slowly, you'll see the results in 3 years' time or 2.5. When you watch this video, you'll be like, my God, didn't that happen? So you'll see this slow but meticulous change that is happening for you. And the energy slows down only because, and the access to prana, only because, so you can also reconsider your lifestyle choices and what are you doing, and you're going to start becoming aware. Okay, I have less energy, for example, or less motivation. Am I aging? Some of you will say, oh, it's age. It's actually, it can happen. You can have Saturn transiting your first house even when you're 12 years old. It can happen at any age. So it's not necessarily age, but it's more like you're being asked to change your lifestyle and your actions. And first, it starts from your self-identity, what you self-identify as, and which will gradually over the next 30 years change your actions in the world, because this is the first house, beginnings, you know, who you are. And everything starts with how do you see yourself. Like I've seen people, when Saturn's transiting their first house, go through sex transition. Some of them go through a totally new role, like becoming a mother, coming to terms with that. Others come to a new role, like of seniority. Saturn always can give more responsibility or seniority, especially if you've been working hard till now. Some kind of recognition, like people look up to you as some authority or some source of understanding, so to speak. So some of you might enter into such roles, while the younger people tend to be given more responsibility and duty, and more is asked from them. Like they start some role, for example, you start to be a university student, or you enter on the first steps at your career, and it's hard work. Saturn transiting the first house is never easy. Building a new self-identity requires a rigorous and meticulous and dedicated work. Don't break your back, but everyday consistent efforts. Many people start new initiatives. It might be a new business, some kind of new beginning. As I said, new mothers can be there. It's long, slow job, whatever it's doing. The results are not gonna be seen immediately, but it's gonna be very gratifying when this period finishes, because you'll turn back and you'll see, wow, it was hard work, but I built so much. So you have to be willing to take up more responsibility. As I said, it might feel like your life slows down a little bit, like there's some restrictions even on your physical movement sometimes, because the first house is your physical body. The first house is your life force, as I said. But it's only to reconsider how your life choices, your actions, how do you prioritize your actions? Maybe you're wasting too much of your life source energy on useless things, or on certain jobs that you're working too hard but not smart. So things slow down, so you can reconsider how to reorganize your life, so you give priority to the most important things and stop wasting your energy, because it's limited now. And it's consistently going to be limited. Maybe for moments you'll have spurts of energy, and kind of this vivacious, jovial burst of life will be diminished. But that's even if you're young. But that's only so you can become more responsible towards your sources of energy and where you spend them. and you might have to cut off certain extra things that you used to do. Maybe if you're going out too much, you're wasting energy. You would be more organized to stop yourself that. Maybe you're distracting yourself with, you've been distracting yourself all your life with, you know, Netflix or whatever, or hobbies, but now it's time to do the serious work. And you need to keep the sacred energy that is more limited during this time for the most important tasks of the day that are going to define your role in society for the next 30 years. So you see what an important time this is. People start taking care more of their health then, because they become aware of this, like, oh, I'm not gonna live forever. Even if you're 20, you know, you become aware of that. People can take care of, you know, to restrict something in their life. Saturn is to restrict, to eat less, to maybe put more routines in their life, you know. And on the material level, a lot of changes will be happening very gradually. Don't push it. You might feel all the time that you have to change something quick. It's not going to happen quick. Whatever you're starting, just remember, is the long haul. And you might have some kind of a personality crisis during this period, because for the next 3 years, because you're redefining yourself and the emergence of this new role that you're going to play in society, and as self-definition of yourself, how you see yourself. It doesn't happen overnight. The birthing process is slow. It's labor. That's why I call it labor. And that's one of the words of Saturn. Saturn rules labor. But it's going to be make it a labor of love. And a lot of people, for them, even it's an unconscious process. They don't go consciously saying, I'm going to start a new chapter in my life. Very often, Saturn is like, no, you're going to start, like the universe say, it's time to start a new chapter in your life. Saturn is a bit like by force, you know. And sometimes signs of aging start to appear. I found my first white hair and I was like, oh, you know, and then I'm like, I see wrinkles and I have to take care better of my body. But something happens from the outside usually that makes you start redefining how to live your life. And honestly, I think Pisces really needs this. Pisces will welcome, even if it's hard, this energy, because for the last 12-14 years, Neptune has been, since 2012, Neptune has been in Pisces, and Neptune is this really dissolves boundaries planet. It has no structure, so maybe you became even, Neptune rules Pisces, so you became even more Piscean for the last years, which is some of you might have felt very confused or disorganized, or well, you might have ideals, but it's hard to manifest them because it's hard to organize yourself, to put them into material crystallization, which is what Saturn will help you do. Saturn is a crystallizing planet. Saturn slows down energy and matter, and when we slow down energy or light, it turns into matter, as you know. So hopefully Saturn will give you, yes, it will feel like sometimes like, oh, my life has stopped, but it's only so you can take stock of everything that's happening, slow down things so it doesn't feel like your life goes like and be more conscious, more deliberate, more present, so you can, building is slow work, so you can build those new foundations in your life. And again, as I said, you'd probably be very happy when your transit ends, not because it's like, oh, finally it ends, with the results that you have. You'll see you've created more order, you streamlined your life, you created some new roles, you removed some old roles from your lives that are outdated. Some of you might even lose weight. Some of you might structure and organize your body, especially if it's your ascendant day. If it's your moon in Pisces, you can structure and organize and put order in your daily habits, which is the moon, in your emotions, in your astral body. If it's your sun, you can put order into your career, take more responsibility there, into the public roles that you play, into the responsible roles again, and to build your kingdom. The sun is to build your kingdom. Yes, some challenges will come, but I speak about those challenges more and the good stuff as well into my 2023 videos. Please, if you are interested, there is a link below, way more in depth about. And by the way, if you want to see if you've learned the lessons of Saturn in your 12th house, which just finished, it started in 2020 and it's just finishing in March 2023. If you want to see how you did listen to the video for the next sign, for Aries, the following sign, because there I talk what it is like to have Saturn transiting the 12th house, and you're just wrapping up this 3-year period of Saturn in your 12th house. So that will be fantastic to see how I speak there for the future for them, but you can make sense when you listen. And when I say for Aries, you're going to be putting order in your subconscious and so on. You can say check, check, or oh wow, I wow, this really happened, or also you can realize that because a lot of unconscious processes happen during Saturn in the 12th house, you can see what it means for you and what it leads to. Then the other big event happening in March 2023 is that Pluto, the lord of the underworld, the planet of the evolution of the soul, is entering your 12th house. It's going to enter there just for a couple of months. It will leave back in June, but it will come back again in 2024. And I think, or maybe it will come back again into Capricorn, but then finally 2024, 25, it enters fully Aquarius, and it stays there till 2044, guys. 2044 in your 12th house. And I know it's too early to speak about that, but there's usually some kind of a symbolic event that happens that will give you clue during the ingress, during the exact entrance, which happens around the 23rd of March. So I'll tell you, watch the whole March and April and June, those 3 months. If there is something very important that's going to change in your life, because it will give you a signs what you're going to deal with either through Saturn for the next 3 years or through Pluto for the next 20 years ahead. And why is Pluto so important? As I said, it's the last planet. It's a very collective planet, but it's a very spiritual planet. It rules the evolution of the soul. So all the other transits and planetary influences that you will have for the next 20 years, they tend to be trying to fulfill the priority of Pluto, wherever Pluto is transiting in your house. There'll be a lot of events that happen in your life over the next 20 years. People will be born, will die, you'll start jobs, you'll move, you'll have children, whatever. All the specter of life. But the ultimate, all those events that are happening, all those inner and external events that are happening for the next 20 years will serve the Pluto position, the Pluto transit in your horoscope through your 12th house. And what is it? I'm just coming out of a 14-year transit of Pluto in my 12th house, so you're in luck. Pisces, you're getting the treat this month because I'm before you, so I can tell you everything that's happened. So Pluto was in my 12th house for 14 years. You're gonna have it for 20. So everything that, and you're not going to be aware of this consciously. I'm giving you the preview now, but it might take you years until you start noticing this, because it's a very 12th house is an invisible house, is the subconscious, and Pluto is a very psychological, invisible planet as well. We can't see it with our eyes. So the process is very subtle yet very profound, and your 12th house is your subconscious. So Pluto will do a deep cleanse of your subconscious, and 12th house rules past lives, forgotten memories from past lifetimes, patterns that we're unaware of that are self-sabotaging for us. Maybe you have phobias or fears of some sort. Well, Pluto can intensify them. I've never had, for example, issues in flying. I used to love being in cozy spaces, and Pluto entering my 12th house, gradually I started developing extreme phobia from even going to the toilet with open door and whatever. And you start asking, why are those things? Because they persist for so many years. It brings up something, some trauma from the past, from your childhood, or from usually even from past lifetimes. That is because I've never been locked or anything like that not to like small spaces. So from your ancestors. And you start, and it pushes you to start investigating, because you're like, okay, my life gets limited because of that, of those subconscious fears. This is what Pluto in the 12th can awaken. And you're like, why am I acting so irrationally in certain spheres? Why am I always repeating the same patterns? maybe you won't do it immediately from the start of the transit. Maybe you start delving into it sometime in the next 20 years. But eventually you'll get to the bottom of it. Eventually, whether it's through psychologists, through therapists, whether it's through self-study, through investigation, self-observations. Pluto is a very self-introspective planet, the 12 houses as well. You're trying to figure out some things that really don't have answers for them by science or by the visible world. You can't fix it with pills, you can't fix it with a doctor, you can't. These are elements of the soul. These are hurts of the soul, of the invisible you. This is your astral body in the 12th house, which is the feelings, the emotions that are locked, and very often we react very emotionally to something that no one else would react emotionally, or that we've never reacted emotionally before on. And we start wondering why I've never reacted so intensely to something before. Usually it's because you unlock, trauma is unlocked when Pluto is in the 12th house. That corresponds maybe to a period in a past lifetime that around the same age something happened to you. And you start reacting to the same thing happening in your life, intense, as if it's a matter of life and death. And you can't find the answers in your everyday life, with normal review of your life very often. Sometimes it will require even past life regression, or even if you don't want to deep delve there into the past, it will require facing your inner demon, so to speak, and doing a lot of self-introspection. And a lot of the self-introspection and a lot of the issues that you have to work on, they'll come through your dreams. Expect that your dreams will start becoming very vivid, Pisces. You already have vivid dreams. You're Pisces, in the sign of dreams. But when Pluto is in your 12th house, it will definitely, because you'll be working and on purifying your astral body, which is the feeling body and the emotional body, by processing the past forgotten traumas. Some of you might even be dreaming past lifetimes. Others might be repeatedly dreaming of something or someone from your past, from your childhood very often, or high school years, when we're most impressionable. And that's what I was like, why do I keep dreaming of the same person? And I was like, why? And I started examining. You can do it with a psychologist or on your own. And I realized, oh my God, the issues that this person raised in my life, they left a deep trauma. And I was dreaming for 14 years consistently, even though I haven't seen this person in 20, 30 years. And it wasn't even some kind of a big trauma, but unresolved emotions that I had about this person, for example, and the situation that I was in. So you're gonna, if you start repeatedly dreaming of something, similar situation, observe it. Maybe watch this video, keep it, come back to it for the next 20 years. So it's gonna start making sense for you. Repeatedly, you can start having dreams, and when this happens, remember that it is a sign for you that maybe actually you don't even consciously are working on those things during the day. The invisible world is helping you work through your dreams those issues. And interestingly is that towards the end of this transit, I started dreaming where I'm in a situation, instead of the repeat situation with this person every time, I started like almost consciously awakening in the dream and saying, no, I'm not this vulnerable person anymore. I claim my power back. Pluto is about claiming your power back. So you're gonna gradually, very slowly, it's a slow transit, especially the hard work will be done and breakthroughs will happen in the cleansing of your astral body of traumatic emotions and the pain body. I'll call it the pain body. Pluto wants to really kind of help you clean off the pain body. And maybe fast steps will happen if Pluto is aspecting a planet when it's transiting in your 12th house, like a square opposition. If you have planets in Leo, for example, Taurus, Scorpio, you'll notice that's when the really important cleansing happens, psychic cleansing, so to speak, psychological, deep psychological transformations. When Pluto exits your 12th house, you'd feel lighter, freer. You'd feel your astral body might be even ready for spiritual initiation. Even while Pluto is in the 12th house, some people might have some spiritual initiations They're very subconscious processes. They're very internal, intrinsic processes. And battling and discovering what are your self-sabotaging behaviors, becoming very aware of them and becoming in control of them rather than fearing them and eliminating them. Pluto is a planet that totally wants to eliminate something. And bad habits. Pluto 12th house is bad habits that we're slaves to. Pluto can intensify them a lot at the beginning, can make you go through some kind of even addictions that intensify to the level of obsession, so that you can, and it's not going to be for 20 years. I mean, when it starts happening, they escalate fast, and then you take care of it, and that's it. It's out of your life. You've overcome this astral attachment. And also 12th house is astral entities, and Pluto then in the 12th house you can feel like astral attacks from time to time in your dreams, or psychologically, like suddenly intense dark moods can come on you, because this is your astral emotional body, and Pluto is the 8th sphere. Is very much connected to energies that are a bit on the lower astral as well. And the lower astral are like, what do they say, fear, dread, negativity, the negative feelings especially, but Pluto, the more intense, like life and death feelings sometimes can happen. So certain situations, they're not threatening for the life usually, just don't worry, it's more like on the psychological level. So you face those demons and you claim your power back. And even if you're thinking that there's some psychic attacks or whatever, I experienced that. It wasn't, it crawls down to the physical, but it felt more like a psychic attack. But again, I was very fearful of those things, and I'm no longer fearful, because you figure out how to control them, how to take your power back. So you'll be psychologically much more cleansed. This transit will do that, will cut off the dross from your subconscious, the repeating patterns and so on. There are a lot of material manifestations as well when Pluto transits the 12th house. Which can connect, which can be like almost like your whole destiny, because Pluto is a very planet of destiny. It can take you to foreign lands, to faraway countries. From the moment Pluto, even before that it entered my 12th house, I've been abroad all the time. There might be some karma that you have to, and it might be important, some kind of isolation to happen. 12th house is the house of isolation from your normal environment, from your place of birth. And even becoming an expatriate or living in foreign places is known like an isolation, because it takes years till you create new friend groups and whatever. So you're quite lonely at the beginning. So I spent a lot of those last 14 years isolated, even though I have a lovely family and friends all over the world. But I'm alone a lot of the time. I don't meet them. So there's isolation, that Pluto in the 12th house gives you space to isolate for self-introspection, for important work to do. To connect with invisible ideas as well. There can be powerful downloads, powerful increase of the intuition that will happen for you, to the extent that some of you might even become psychic or have some abilities open up for you. And you learn, you take that power. I learned to trust my intuition in the last 14 years. I was like, how can I do a horoscope? Would I know it's going to be true? Then we start understanding how intuition works gradually. And you take your power, and you start taking power from the invisible world as well. And the external experiences are a lot, like from being in faraway countries where that give you space to distance yourself from the normal environment, to being a bit more in isolation. But I speak a lot more about that in my 2023 video horoscope that I've made for you, which is just $21. If you want to check it way more in depth, I speak more about the practical material manifestations there. Now let's look again about other things that are just specifically for March for you, Pisces. At the beginning of the month, start at the very beginning. Jupiter and Venus meet in your 2nd house here in Aries. That's very lucky. So there's a lot of positive focus on your 2nd house, which you can receive something valuable. You can gain some boost of income, for example, more self-appreciation, self-value. You can even do something to beautify your face, because the 2nd house rules face and teeth. There can be something beautiful that you acquire, or some sensual experience that you really enjoy, of the 5 senses. some luxury, some pleasure, and something positive that happens about, or even some spending that you consider a bit extravagant because Jupiter expands, but pleasurable at the same time. Then also, of course, there is a lot of focus in your sign, guys, your Pisces, and the Sun is in Pisces in this month. This is wonderful for you. New beginnings. Again, this month is the most important for Pisces. Saturn is entering your sign. The Sun is entering. First, it will revitalize you. Even though Saturn is entering there, will be one of the months you feel a lot more energy than other months ahead, because after that Saturn will slowly start doing its job when the Sun moves, the fire, the life force, when it moves away from your sign, then it's Saturn which is trying to, as I said, it will restrict the prana and the life force, so you can prioritize where to spend your energy and what is really important in your life. Okay. So Mars continues to be in your 4th house, and it exits it, thankfully. So no more, if you still continue to almost the end of the month to have focus on family that you've had for the next almost 6 months, but it's no longer stressful, you're finding solutions, you're moving forward, or something to do with your emotional reactions, or home, or property, or place of living. Things move ahead, and they're not like you're finding solutions and you're pushing forward. Thank you so much, Pisces, and if you want to join me for my Pluto in Aquarius webinar that I'll speak about each personal transits of Pluto for the next 20 years and how it will affect you personally. Because, I'll teach you how to see what transits you have. If Pluto is transiting in your 12th house, your Pisces, but from there it might square, for example, your midheaven, and I'll say what it will mean and which year it will happen. From there, Pluto can make a trine to your Venus, and I'll say what it means and which years it will happen. So check it out.